I shall not.
Hey guys, and welcome to Gwent, the Witcher card game. My name is Jaggerus, and today I want to talk to you guys about deck size in Gwent. Now, in Gwent, the current system is that we have 25 cards in a deck minimum. I don't think you should be running more than 25 cards in a deck for consistency's sake, because you only get 4 golds and 6 silvers. So every bronze card extra that you add to a deck means you're less likely to draw those 4 golds and 6 silvers. So what this basically means is we've got 4 golds, 6 silvers, and 15 bronze cards. Now, this is probably going to be an unpopular opinion, but I think that they should increase the minimum deck size in Gwent to 30 cards rather than 25. And I think they should keep the gold card numbers the same and the silver card numbers the same, but I think they should increase the size to 30. And the reason I feel like this is the case is because I think with Gwent, there is a bit of a problem with deck thinning. Now, deck thinning is where you basically have cards which play other cards from your deck. And you use this to basically take those cards out of your deck so that when you draw on the second and third round, or if you play a card that has draw equipped to it, you have better chances of finding the cards you want. And I understand that this is something that card games need. I think, you do need a certain level of consistency in card games such that people are able to play combo decks where cards can, combo off other cards and you can have those synergies happen. But the thing is, with bronze cards, you already get 3 of those per deck anyway. So having, 3 copies of each bronze card in a deck, if you're doing bronze card synergies, you should be able to find them. And I think the idea behind legendary cards, for example, is that they're meant to be relatively special and their effects are meant to be quite sweeping. And what that means is that I don't think you should be able to consistently draw all 4 gold cards in one game. Like, yes, it should happen sometimes, but every single game, that can be kind of ridiculous. But with the tempo Nilfgaard deck archetype, I think I've had 1 game with that deck where I didn't draw 4 gold cards. I didn't manage to play all 4. And that game I still managed to play 3 of them. And I think that because deck thinning is so prevalent, it means that as a result, the deck size numbers aren't, I don't think, quite right. Because I like deck thinning as a feature. I think if you want a more consistent deck, like, it's important to put deck thinning cards in. But when you're at the point where you can consistently basically get through your entire deck in 1 round, as I've seen screenshots for with Nilfgaard versus Nilfgaard, that's going to be a problem. And I think that ultimately part of card games and part of, the nuance and skill in card games is being able to build a deck where, if you don't draw exactly what you need, then, you can play around that. That's part of the skill. That's part of the, reading your opponent and being a skillful player is if, you don't get best case scenario, then being able to work around that. But in the current state of Gwent, I think that with certain decks, you always get best case scenario. Like, you never really have to play in a negative situation or in a situation where you don't have exactly what you want. And I don't think that's good for card games. I don't think it's good for the health of the game. And I think it's causing trouble in terms of balancing. Card specifically that a lot of people are talking about is golems. Golems are a bronze card in Nilfgaard, and when you play your leader ability, it thins 3 cards from your deck. It pulls all 3 golems from your deck. On top of that, they're giving you points on the board, and it does mean that then going into future rounds, you're not going to be drawing those golems, so you can effectively run a 22 card deck. Now, in a game of Gwent, you draw 10 cards, I believe, at the start, 2 cards going into round 2, and 1 card going into round 3. So you're going to draw 13 cards, which you would think, 25 card deck is half your deck, but that's never the case because of all this deck thinning. You're actually, able to play cards which play other cards, and you're likely to draw in these situations most of your deck. And the problem I have here is that because also with mulliganing, when you mulligan a card, you actually blacklist a card. So if I mulligan, say, a golem, it means that during that mulligan, I will not draw another golem. So actually, when you come to think about it, with the 3-card mulligan at the start of the round, for example, decks are very consistent because you can just get rid of the cards that you really don't want to find again, and you won't find them again until, you draw later on in the rounds. So I think a 5-card increase would help the game in that it would maybe make these Nilfgaard tempo decks, for example, slightly less reliable. And I think they would still see play, but I think they would become less reliable. And I think that would, allow other decks to start to shine. I think it would also, start to cause other cards to make see more play, because there's so many now core cards for decks. Like, you see people posting, this is my core deck for, say, an archetype. And because you only have 25 cards in a deck, there's very little variation between decks. And I think this also kind of stagnates the kind of deck construction side of things. And it means that people can't really be creative with decks, because you know, you can't afford to run creative cards, basically, and you can't afford to run maybe slightly more situational cards, because basically, you know, you're too limited by what's in the deck. And I think that if they increase the deck size by 5 cards, 5 bronze cards, I don't think it would necessarily harm the game too much, but I think it would start to also cause some of these cards that never see play to, you know, see more play. Clan Demon Pirates, for example, are a Skellige card, and when you play one, it discards the other 2 from your deck. And the thing is, Skellige doesn't even need to run this deck thinning at all, because 25 cards combined with the discard that they have and whatnot, it's already too consistent that you wouldn't need to actually deck thin to try and find the things that you want. And this is something that I think, you know, it's a balancing act. You don't want to make it so that people can't play combo or that they can't find the control cards when they need them. Like, I think you need to have a certain level of consistency within the game. But I think with the amount of, you know, card chaining and with the discarding that's going on, I think that Gwent can afford to add 5 more cards to the deck. And I don't think it would negatively affect the game at all. I think it would probably positively affect the game, because it would allow for some, you know, more interesting combos and strategies, and it would cause decks to be a bit more creative and have, you know, conditions where, you know, if I don't draw the optimal hand, you know, can I still win? Can I still work with these cards? And this is something that I think is going to be, you know, a bit more healthy for the game, because at the moment a lot of decks feel very predictable. And I think that, you know, if you're a good player, yes, you should be able to predict your opponent to a certain level, but not to the level where, you know, you can more or less tell exactly what deck they're running from their leader, for example. And where, you know, different plays, you never really get surprised by anything that anyone does. That is definitely something that I personally think needs to be changed about Gwent. And, you know, I think it's something that they could definitely try out. We're in open beta, you know, we're not in full client. Like, it's something that they could try out, running 30 card decks rather than 25. And then if it doesn't work, it's definitely something that I think can be changed. And I understand that if you make a change like this, you know, it's going to massively affect the balance of all of the cards in the game. And it's going to be kind of a difficult thing to kind of work through. But I think with the current situation it allows the game to become, you know, too stale. And I think having a little bit more variety in cards could be good. Otherwise, I guess they could, you know, start to remove some of the deck thinning, but I think that would upset players. And, you know, generally, I just think that Gwent would be a better game with, you know, 5 more cards in every deck. Not, you know, heaps of cards. I don't want to kind of make it so that you don't find your combos ever, but I feel like 5 more cards would make people be more creative with decks. It would help with issues with stuff like the tempo deck, where, you know, they're able to consistently play all of their gold cards. I don't think that should be something that you're able to do, and I think, you know, you should have to be, you know, kind of tactical in terms of when you play your cards. And I think with the current deck side, you don't have to be too tactical, because you know you're going to find the stuff that you need when you need it. But you should have to have a plan B. I think that's kind of part of card games, is that if things don't work out, can you play around it? Can you work around it? Can you make a deck that has, you know, multiple strategies that all fit together? That, I think, is part of the challenge for Gwent. And I think the game generally would be better with 30 cards. That's my kind of 10 cents on the topic. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you like how things are currently? Do you think, you know, they should change the deck size at all? Do you think if they increase the deck size, they should allow you to have more golds or more silvers? Do you think that, you know, golds and silvers should be a limit where, like, for example, do you think you should be able to run, say, 7 silvers and 3 golds? Like, be able to trade out a gold for a silver? Do you think that's something that could be cool in the game? I think that could be kind of neat. I think, like, you should have a fixed number of golds maximum, but I think you should be able to replace those golds with silvers should you want to. I think that could allow for more interesting deck creation as well. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below, or if you think I'm talking a load of nonsense. It's not something I've really been able to discuss with anyone. That's why I want to make this video, because I want to see other people's kind of opinions on this matter. And I think like it's hard to talk about on places like Reddit, because people are quite happy with, you know, super consistent decks where they always get what they want. But I think for the health of the game, it would maybe be better to remove it. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Have a fantastic day. And hopefully I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye!